y'all? It's your girl Kawea, and welcome to another episode of Fine Talks. Y'all, this is a very special episode. It's the first episode of 2024, and it is the last episode of my first season. I'm super excited. If you are new to my channel, thank you guys. And if you're a returning subscriber, make sure to leave me a comment below, and let's get right into this video. Y'all, I'm so excited. I have a whole different energy for this year. This is new energy, and I'm so excited for season 2. Y'all just make sure to stay tuned. I got so many good things lined up, but today I have a very special guest. It's an author, an entrepreneur, a mother. I'm gonna let her introduce herself. I like to gas my guests up, but I'm gonna let her go ahead and introduce herself, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
Don't get me to laughing. Thank you. I really appreciate that introduction. I am a mom. I am an entrepreneur. I am an author. And I think one of the main things that I love out of those is being an author, because I get to share how life is from my perspective.
That is wonderful. I love this. The vibe, y'all, the vibe is already so good. This is her first time doing this type of interview. So I'm excited to be able to share this moment with her. But y'all heard her. She said she's an author. That was another reason why I wanted to interview her. Because if you don't know, I recently published my very first book. So she is not new to this. So I wanted to get her perspective and insight, but I'll let you, before we get into your background and how you started with everything, let's go ahead and start with my chitter chatter questions. That's just to kind of break the ice. If you're new here, y'all, I've created an icebreaker game, which is called Chitter Chatter, just to kind of break the ice. A lot of people on other podcasts, they literally have other icebreaker games that they play. So I wanted to create my own. Go ahead and pick a couple cards, and then we'll get into the juicy stuff.
Did you want to?
She's like, good content.
All right, there goes one. How many am I supposed to pick?
However many you want to pick.
Oh, girl.
Do 1, 2, 3 till you feel comfortable.
I'm going to say 3.
3 is one of my lucky numbers.
All right.
3, 3, 3. All right. I will mix them up. All right, you pick it. Okay. And no, that's for you to answer. Okay. It's for you to give. I'm already loosened up. This is to help my guests get loosened up. Everybody watch it.
First question is, what's the silliest thing that you're good at?
Good one. What's the silliest thing that you're good at?
Dad jokes.
Really?
Yes.
Tell us a good dad joke.
All right.
I had one of my guests said that he was really good at hula hooping, so I was like, huh.
Hula hooping?
That is a good thing.
I got these hips, but no, they don't work for me.
What's a good dad joke? Because I don't think I'm good at jokes. I'd be funny without like trying to be funny.
That part too, but I'm good when I have it like next to me and I'm reading it. That way I can know like where my punchline is at.
But what are dad jokes like?
Like a knock-knock joke, something funny like the off the popsicle sticks.
Gotcha. Can you tell us one? Do you make them up? Or
sometimes
you're good at placing them like in the right spot?
I should preface with this. I think I'm good at the dad jokes. That doesn't necessarily mean that you think I'm good at the dad.
You're right.
So I'm guessing myself up here.
We'll save that for the end. So think all right, you got 2 more. That's a good one.
All right. Next question is, when it comes to dating, how do you discuss boundaries and non-negotiables?
Ooh,
oh my God, this is so full.
A good one.
This is so good. You want me to answer this right now?
Yeah, I do.
Whew. All right. Boundaries is something that I'm still working on. And some of the things that I identify as triggers would be how they behave in our interaction, what that communication looks like.
And how do you communicate that to them? Because I know when you first start talking to people, everybody is like in that trying to put on stage in the beginning, but how, if they're crossing your boundary, how do you say like, hey, in the beginning, without feeling like you don't want them to like you anymore?
I'm still trying to regulate my emotions, if I'm being really honest. I've had a previous relationship where he said something that I felt wasn't appropriate. And I said to him, I don't like that. I don't like how that makes me feel. And then he goes on to this tangent about why his point of view is. But not,
so he was offended.
Yes, but not listening to how I'm feeling as an individual and accepting what it is that I'm trying to express to him is my boundary.
I think it's hard. Did he ever circle back around to understand where you're coming from? Or it was just you voiced your boundary and then it was like a deuces type of situation?
No, it wasn't deuces. because I have this space I like to give them, or benefit of the doubt. And so I gave him a benefit of the doubt, but also too, I wasn't listening to myself to say, hey, friend, you're feeling this way. You've already told this person multiple times, and he's still doing the same thing. I allowed him to continue with it until I felt fed up enough to shut that door.
And I think that I am learning that it is, I guess, more important to set those boundaries in the beginning and make them known versus waiting a month, 2 months, 3 months, like up front, like, hey, these are my boundaries, these are my triggers. If you're uneducated about what triggers are and how that works with people, then that's where I'm at in my life, I'm like, you gotta go. I'm not even waiting to see if you're comfortable. And then if you don't respond well to me setting my boundaries and letting that be known up front, that's another reason you gotta go.
And I feel like people that come from our kind of background, our boundaries are broken all the time.
For sure.
And so those are spaces that we have to be actively proactive in. And like you said, as when I finished that one, I ended up talking to somebody else. And he's in his process of growing his business. Because I asked him, oh, okay, well, he couldn't make it to our date. And he's like, let's go out tomorrow. I said, that's fine. Let's go get breakfast. He's like, oh, my finances. And I'm like, hold up, brother.
Boundaries,
we're not doing this.
Boundaries. Because finances is a very, if your finances are not together, something is not together. People don't look at finances as a boundary either.
Absolutely. And those should be some things to take notice of. And that's not saying to not support your person when you're with them. But that's in that space. What I was doing is I fell in love with the potential. I fell in love with the potential, but I didn't fall in love with what it is at this particular moment.
And this is funny that you pulled this card, because all the other guests that I have had, they've pulled some kind of crazy cards, because I have a mixture of serious and little spicy questions in there. I love this for you.
Oh,
that's good. Perfect. Good. That's good.
But also too, I want to just share one other thing. It's like when we are going through that process, I was even a little bit hesitant on how I should break it down to the brother, because I was like, dang, I don't want to hurt his feelings. But I had to put my people pleasing aside, and say, you know what?
Because it's going to hurt your feelings in the long run if you try to spare his feelings.
Right. And so I told him, even though I was fumbling over my words, I said, right now, I just can't be operating in that kind of space with an individual, especially if their finances are together. I'm sorry.
I love this, and I'm glad that we're touching on this, because I'm literally in that era of my life where I'm dating and trying to figure out how to express to people where I'm at. But then, like you touched on, people do get offended, and then that leaves us internally feeling like we did something wrong or we're not good enough, but it's honestly that person is not on our level. And there are people that are educated and emotionally aware to be able to be like, I understand where she's coming from. She's gone through a lot, so let me be empathetic. I believe that's a good word to use there. Where you're at.
How would you have responded, or in a similar situation? What was your response? What was that process like? And I think that's important to share, because like me, I'm in the thick of it trying to figure it out, even though we have a lot of resources to say and to communicate and articulate it in a way that is okay for both parties.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I am currently trying to figure it out. I'm trial and error. I have had, unfortunately, some failed relationships because of waiting to set those boundaries or even be aware of what my boundaries are. And now that I'm dating again, I'm either I'm just turned off immediately and I'm like, I'm going to save this long conversation for somebody else, because I already get the vibe that you're not going to be there. And then just recently, the person that I was talking to, I did express where I'm going through, and I'm active therapy every single week. My therapist is literally like my best friend. I let people know that upfront. I am in therapy. I very much do have triggers. I am a Gemini, but I'm very moody, and everything triggers me. I'm letting you know that upfront. Everything triggers me. It could be a smell, it could be the tone of voice, it could be whatever. And if you can't give it that, then I'm so sorry. But I internalize that a lot too.
I'm glad you brought that up about the triggers because
Mm-hmm.
when we are having these kind of conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say they did something,
Mm-hmm.
I immediately say, that's making me feel some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're open to it, I even share, this is why I feel this kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what your background is, but I'm just letting you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if I feel like they're open to have that conversation, then they could be a safe space to share.
And you can tell where a person's emotional intelligence is when you say, I'm triggered. If their response is, what are you triggered for? Or what does that mean? You're not emotionally intelligent. Because the next following question should be, what did I do to trigger you?
Right.
So that you can eat, so that they can comfort you or take a step back or whatever the case is. But when I tell you, I feel like I use the word triggered a lot now because of therapy, but I'll tell my mom, my brother, my best friend, anybody that's like, if you're communicating with me, if something triggers me, you now know what the word trigger means. And people are just not aware that they either have triggers or what's triggering them.
That's good to make it more normalize.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm feeling like way because with I think our type of backgrounds, problem resolution, what is that?
What?
Verbal
Where?
communication, what is that?
Where?
Yes, all those things.
It's not
Sorry, I
exactly.
gotta blow my nose
No,
real
you're
quick.
fine. And y'all, I'm so appreciative of her because she is under the weather and not feeling well. But I really wanted to close my season 1, so I appreciate her for coming sick and all. We're gonna work through this interview. Try not to make it too long, but it's already going so good. But we work it.
I'm the dope sick.
But yeah, that's a whole nother topic. And I am proud of myself for even being so comfortable to talk about it, but it's a work in progress. I'm literally every single week learning how to be more comfortable with letting people know. And I'm cool off, if you're a trigger to me, I'm cool off being around you. And I used to not be that way because I thought like, oh, I'm too sensitive, or oh, I always have an issue with something. Yes, I do always have an issue with something, and I'm very sensitive. If you can't be understanding of that, you literally don't need to be around me. It takes time, but I have to tell myself.
People do need to, not need, but an area that they could explore is being more empathetic of where people are coming from.
For sure.
When that happens, you can have more of a broader conversation versus looking at something narrow.
I agree. That was a good question. We got one more. We almost didn't need 3.
What emoji do you use most when texting?
Ooh, that's a fun one.
I think the smiley face.
Good.
Because the LOL automatically turns into a smiley.
It was good. Okay, y'all. That was the end of the chitter chatter icebreaker, and we are gonna get into the real. The ice is broken. Like, that conversation was really good, but
we melted the ice.
Right. But go ahead and let the viewers know just your background, however long, short you want to make that. Go ahead and just talk to me.
All right. Well, since we're talking about being an author, I started writing about my experience with childhood trauma. And I did that because I wanted to leave a legacy for my children. I have 3 of them. They're grown. Youngest is 20, oldest is 24.
And I actually met her through her daughter.
Yes.
So that's a fun fact. Shout your daughter out. Hey, girl.
Hey, because I wanted to leave that story with them, when I started to share it with others, they were saying, oh, bro, you should share that with other people. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that.
And I like that you're emphasizing child traumas, because I feel like what we've talked about already, we have traumas, but we're both adults now, but people skip over, like, that starts from adolescence before you even become an adult. That, I feel like that's really good.
I think a lot of us are just adults with a child tendencies, except now we have money and we can be more vocal if we want to. So
we have bills, apartments, so all of those things. But I feel like traumas get overlooked. I did not read your book yet, but what are some of the things that you touched on as far as childhood traumas?
We talked about like the boundaries. That is something that I learned with my youngest, the one that you met, because one day she put me in check. And in a Samoan culture, you don't put parents in check, it's vice versa. But I'm coming to find out it's not just the Samoan culture, it's just quote unquote minorities in general. When she said that to me, I had to really think about I was in therapy. And so my first response is like,
Like,
yeah,
girl,
you are about to meet this hand.
mm-hmm.
And then also too, it's utilizing my words.
Mm-hmm.
The quickest thing for me to say was
And what
something
did
very
she
negative.
say exactly?
She was like, I told her to take out the trash, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, no, you take out the trash. You're not doing nothing.
Yikes.
Yeah. And can I cuss on here?
Sure.
I'm like, I'm about to kill this bitch. I'm saying, I've heard various versions of that, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure. With the different tools that they taught me in therapy, take a break, take a breather.
Mm-hmm.
Those are one of the things.
Is that considered gentle parenting?
I don't know what label goes on that. I just knew that my household was very tumultuous.
Mm-hmm.
So it was toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't want to continue to carry on that kind of vibe and energy.
And is that why she felt, and what did she mean by you're not doing nothing? Because why did she even feel comfortable?
Nobody's asked me that before, because that's just how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing something and I want something done, I just say what it is that I need done,
Mm-hmm.
and you do it. Don't question what I'm saying.
Right.
And so to her, she's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why don't you go do it yourself?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of things that encompass that.
Mm-hmm.
There were various situations where we butted heads, and because of what I thought was the right way of parenting,
Mm-hmm.
she was coming from another perspective.
Mm-hmm.
No, bro, you gotta be respectful towards me. I'm another human being,
And
I didn't.
That's true.
And I did not take that as that was something that was valid.
Mm-hmm.
As I started to open up my perspective and see things from her way, but I had to learn her boundaries first,
Mm-hmm.
which was a
And
headache of a
how
journey.
old was she at this time?
She was 14 or 16. One of them. She just started high school.
Oh.
And like my other two, they listened to me.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, she's just like, Mom, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
She really pushed me.
That was the stem of you writing your book, or the start of you writing your book?
That was the start of me writing my book.
And what are a few other things that you touched on?
I also talk about boundaries too with in the workplace.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's a good one.
Yes.
Because workplaces do not have boundaries. They feel like, and I'm an entrepreneur and I do work a 9-to-5 job. I've lived on both, I guess, sides where I was a full-time entrepreneur, didn't work a 9-to-5 because of how workplaces treat you. Mm-hmm. Like they feel it's almost like modern day slavery. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Modern day slavery. Yes, go ahead and touch on workplace boundaries.
Oh, that's a long story. You want to hear that one too?
You can shorten it.
Okay. Well, I basically work for a boss.
Because I want people to kind of feel why they should go.
I work for this person.
Mm-hmm. company. At the company. She's not working for you no more.
And one day I walk in and he's just like telling somebody off about what they're doing. Literally telling them off. And I thought,
like, he don't got no sense.
I was like, this can't be the boss. And so when I go and look, oh, it is him. Mm-hmm. And I look at that, I'm like, I'm going to avoid him at all costs, so I don't find myself in that situation.
And that's uncomfortable to feel like I can't even speak up because I might get fired. That was another reason why
Nah, it wasn't that for me.
No.
Nah, girl. Nope.
And when I first started working, I literally was like, well, I don't want to lose my job because I need my job and da-da-da-da-da. And I used to let my boss talk to me crazy. I've worked in workplaces where they have favoritism.
I've had that.
All types of stuff. But no.
No, not for me.
Not anymore. No. I will leave a job like, no, don't need this.
I've had those experiences though. It's important to talk about, what that journey looked like to get you where you are. Mm-hmm. Nah, one day at the end of this story.
Mm-hmm. And are they many stories?
No, there's like 3 main ones in there.
Okay.
And then there's like a lesson in each one. Cool. And at the end, we end up both going head to head with each other. Mm-hmm. He would call me literally and like start yelling at me on the phone, and I go, click. When you get some sense, you can talk to me.
That part.
I know people in the office, they were like, damn, why doesn't he fire this bitch? And I'm like, do
you think that any of them read your book?
No, they need to. Because the idea of people talking to others and there's no respect there, it drives me nuts, regardless of what position that you hold.
For sure.
And I think also too, coming from our kind of background,
and I need to be heard. Touch on what your background is for the viewers, because I know we keep on saying, what background we come from, but they might not know what that. They're probably like, "Where did you come from?" That means.
Whoops! I just assume everybody read my book already. So now, go get my book. Go get our book.
Right. My book definitely shed some light on my background coming from foster care,
Yeah.
dealing with being adopted, being in an abusive relationship, and maneuvering, trying to still be a successful person. With whole time I was gonna be whole time when I lived at home, it was just so much chaos. Literally every single day, it was something between biological, adopted, this, that. My siblings were running away from home, in and out of jail. It was a lot. That's a short snippet of my background.
Oh, well, we have similar stuff. I grew up in a house where a stepdad who, like you said, whooping my ass basically every day, and it will be for the smallest things. Overcooked cup of noodles. So things that
Whole
didn't
time
make
he
sense.
angry about God knows what he's
He angry about his own life. He angry about his own life. And then come to find out, as I got bigger, oh, he's only 5'4". I should have whooped your ass back then. Oh shit. I don't know if he's alive or not, but
shoot, who knows? His bad.
But just from being suppressed with my voice, not being able to communicate what I was feeling, having to just listen and not being able to garner my own thoughts, those things caused me to behave in a certain way in a lot of areas of my life. I couldn't express it in my relationship. I couldn't express it to my kids. I couldn't express it to myself. And so the first thing that I would do is I would cry because I didn't know how to vocalize it.
Ooh, touch on that. Because I still kind of am a crybaby, but I used to cry when I was upset because I did not know how to verbalize like I do now what bothered me. And I used to literally just either walk outside or go somewhere by myself just to cry because that was the only way that I felt like I could release my anger, my pain, my frustration of not knowing how to tell people, this is what you're doing to me, and please stop. Please stop. I did not know how to verbalize that. I can now. That's a good thing.
How'd you get to that process to learning how to vocalize?
Therapy, going through so many bad relationships, and literally when I tell you, I feel like I'm the queen of personal development because I'm podcasts, seminars, Jim Rohn. I read books, I journal. I'm talking to people. Oh, how do you get through there? How do you deal with when you're upset? How do you I'm that type of person. So I've literally, for the last, I would say 10 years, literally have been trying to figure out how to be better, how to communicate, how to verbalize. And I feel like in my present day, going to therapy and learning how to cope, learning how to figure out what types of people I need to be around, makes communication easier. Because I've always, up to this point in my life, been around people that made 10 times harder for me to be able to communicate anything. I'm doing the work on myself, but then I'm surrounding myself by so many people that are not even on my level.
I think that's beautiful to share because we don't know what people's financial situations are. And a lot of the times, I think therapy may not be something that they can afford.
For sure.
And you mentioned journaling, reading,
asking questions. I'm the type of person, I could be sitting at a coffee shop and I'll get like a vibe from somebody and I'll just start a conversation. And by the end of the conversation, I'm asking them, how do you deal with, or I'm in a place in my life where, and I need some help. That's free. Literally, that is free. And if you're in school offers 10 free therapy sessions. If you're at work, every company should offer some sort of therapy, at least 10 sessions. That's a good start. And once you do those, then you can say, this is something that I feel like I need consistently. What are my options? Because financially, I cannot afford to pay for therapy.
That's good. I didn't know that.
That's a good resource. Yes. I didn't know workplaces offered that either. And I also, the whole time I was in school, I didn't find out about my school offering therapy till like my last couple semesters. And it was because I was almost failing my classes and I emailed my professor and I was like, I'm going through a bad breakup. I'm about to lose the place that I'm staying at. I lost my job. I'm literally about to crash out. I need some help. I don't want to fail school because school is the only thing that's like giving me some sort of like hope in life because it is going to help me with my future goals. And they were like, oh, well, we offer therapy with school, but great. Whole time I literally did not know.
I'm really glad you brought that because when we, I think asking
Mhm.
is something that's very difficult,
Mhm.
especially when you've had to live life in a certain way
Mhm.
and you had to show up just for yourself
Mhm.
and you feel like nobody's there for you.
Mhm.
Pushing ourselves out of that uncomfortable space.
Mhm.
Like you said, it'll give us some answers. We just have to start asking questions to
You
people.
do, and the saying "closed mouths don't get fed." I literally live by that. There is nothing that I feel embarrassed about asking. I know that there are people that are out there that are doing what I aspire to do. So I'm like, there's a way. I just got to figure out that way, and somebody knows. So I don't care how many people I got to ask. Somebody knows.
I've like recently with myself, I've learned something that in business
Mhm.
is easier for me to do the ask because there's
Mhm.
no emotional connection.
True.
When it comes to family and friends, it's different because it's like you have all this
Yeah.
background that you have to reference.
Mhm.
And I think when we earlier you talked about being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
When we push ourselves to that space, we
Mhm.
can be more available.
For sure.
And I just
And you're available and open are two of the same words, but when you put yourself out there, you're literally
the energy
allowing
that
the
you're
universe.
attracting.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. I was like, my mouth was like,
Since we're touching on the business aspect with you going through all the traumas that you went through, like myself, how did you end up where you're at now? And what are the hardest parts about being a mother, an entrepreneur, having these businesses, setting boundaries in your dating world in life? How do you touch on those?
even though I'm a mom, they're grown now. The only time we really have these conversations is if they're experiencing something. And so we can have that one-on-one time. It's really it takes care of itself.
And a quick interjection with you having kids and gone through trauma, do you tell your kids about some of the things that you've gone through? Because I feel like with my biological mom and even my adopted parents, that was the disconnect growing up. They made everything look like it was peachy dory, it was perfect. Then boom, I become 15, 16, and I feel like life is hell. And I'm looking around at everybody like, why is everybody so happy? Mom was in prison. Where's my dad? My sister's running away. Why is everybody so happy? What's going on? And I feel like parents probably could do a better job. I don't know what age, but when the kid seems like they're able to understand, sit down and have that conversation with them and more so prepare them like, hey, you might go through this. And if you are currently going through this, these are the things that you can do at a young age.
I'll tell you this. I fucked my kids up mentally.
At least you're honest though.
Yes.
That's honest. Most parents or some parents like they can't be. Because it's guilt though. That's what my therapist says. Yes. Is that they feel guilty because they know that they fucked up and they can't really do nothing about what they already did.
For sure. My mom, I always watched her behavior. And Mom, I know you may not like this, but shit, people got to know the truth so they can figure out what's wrong and what's right. When you lie a lot and you're in that kind of environment, you really don't have a choice but to replicate that kind of behavior.
Facts. It's learned behavior.
Like you mentioned earlier with your parents, they painted the picture like everything's okay.
Or it wasn't as bad. No.
No, I had to come to a space where I became vulnerable with them and really tell them that they already knew I was the problem. I didn't know I was the problem. That's, I didn't know I was the problem. When I started to acknowledge and address the discrepancies that I created in their life, whatever it was, whatever communication that we had, then that's when we were able to start to heal. Because I remember this one time I took my son to go buy some tennis shoes. And my son, he was like maybe in the 6th grade. He saved up his $89. And the shoe came up to like, let's say $89.90. He didn't have the 90 cents. I'm like, you ain't got it. You don't spend that shit. And he's just like, damn.
He's like, you don't got 90 cents?
Yeah. And looking back, I could have invested into my son.
Don't cry. Ooh, do not cry. I already said I'm a crybaby. Please don't cry.
Those moments that we miss, something small. I could have taken that. This is my baby. He needed that support. I couldn't be that for him because I didn't know how to be that for myself.
And have you had this conversation with him?
We cried about it for a long time. Sorry if I'm getting boogery.
No, you're fine.
Go on and edit that. Those small things, because we come from parents, or I came from that kind of background,
I'm
where
not a parent yet, but I wanted to ask you because I feel like that is an area where my adopted parents and my biological mom
yeah,
could do better. Since I've written the book, I honestly feel like it's made both parties be like, dang, like, well, we weren't hearing her, so
mm,
she did what she had to do to technically be heard. I just really want, I guess, people or parents or I don't know. I just want to bring awareness to parents that have had rough backgrounds. Like that portion is
yeah,
okay, but be super understanding of your kids too. And don't try to paint the picture of like, oh, it's not as bad. Like it's however they took it, however they are dealing with it. It just is what it is. But
yeah,
give them some grace as
yeah.
well too. So.
When we come from those kind of backgrounds where the parents don't know themselves,
Mhm.
they don't love themselves, they don't make a capacity for compassion,
Mhm.
we can't replicate that unless we ourselves decide that this is not how we want to live anymore. This is
Mhm.
not how we want to communicate anymore.
Mhm.
And when you want to change, you'll make those decisions to make better choices. I had to really be open with them and tell
Mhm.
them where I was at, because like you said, if I didn't, then there would be no healing. My kids would have continued to hated me. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
Whatever.
because if there are any parents that are watching and you come from a traumatic background, just please have those conversations with your kids because at some point, whether they're 50, 45, 30, 20, like it's still going to need to be had. So don't avoid the conversation. The sooner you have the conversation, the sooner the healing process starts for both parties, honestly. What do you have coming up? I know you don't feel good. You've already even cried. I don't want to drag it too long. Too long. I feel like we touched on some really good stuff. But go ahead and let the viewers know what you have coming up, where they can find you, your clothing line, just
Okay.
plug all of that good stuff.
All right.
And then we might have to do some more chatting. We
Okay.
do because this was good, and I feel like we touched on some very vulnerable topics, but
Mm-hmm.
they are topics that need to be talked about. And
Yeah.
these are topics that I like talking to people about
Same.
because I feel like they matter. Like we were briefly talking about before we got started, people want to talk about the pop culture and this and that, but that has no relevance to
Right.
your life.
Yeah.
Your life. It's a distraction, honestly. The more and the sooner people start doing the work on themselves and dealing with the trauma, whether it's your mom and dad got divorced when you were 5, that might not be as bad as we were in abusive relationships and that type of thing, but it still needs to be addressed.
I'm really glad you brought that up because, like, the sports, the various different things, they are used for a distraction.
That's it, and that's all.
And those are
And they're
some of our
hoping,
coping mechanisms.
exactly. They're hoping. I feel like society hopes that people mask everything that they have going on, and then you get the few people in between that actually do the work to be better. And if everybody was conscious and woke to the personal development, life might not be as interesting and messy. So that's how you want to live your life, great. But there are some of us out here that really are soul searching, trying to be better. Like I said, I'm not a mother yet, but I feel like when I do get the opportunity to be a mother, I feel like I'm gonna be great at it because I've been through a lot, and I'm not going to set my daughter or son up to think like, oh, life is just peachy dory. No, 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 no. Mom came from trauma. You might even my baby might trigger me for whatever reason.
The baby, my daughter that you met, she was the healed portion of raising a child, because the other two I raised them in trauma, even though she had a portion of it, but she is so cognizant of herself. She's very comfortable in her own skin. And my other two, they're still working through stuff.
Me, out of all my mom's kids, I'm the one that has been, I wouldn't say that they're not successful, but personal development work. And I've acknowledged a lot of the things that, my sister, she was very angry with my mom, and me and my sister just last year, we were able to have a heart-to-heart conversation just about different things that has happened. And I'm in a place now where I tell my mom, maybe you should go to therapy. I forgive you for not being an active part of my life, but try to go to therapy.
Believe me, girl, I'm still having them conversations with my mom.
We could talk about this all day, but go ahead and plug in all your good stuff.
Well, for those of you guys that will be in Las Vegas, I'm going to be at an expo in Las Vegas. I'll be one of the speakers, and it's called the Best You Expo. on April the 12th, 13th, and 14th. It is a personal development conference. I will be sharing my book called Can You Hear Me? So I'll just be sharing about my experience there, and hopefully it'll help somebody that's listening. In addition to that, I have a
Are
freight
there
broker.
tickets?
Oh,
Do they need to buy tickets for the
there
Las
are
Vegas?
tickets. I don't know how much it costs, but if you go into my profile, you'll see the link. I don't know how much it costs, if I'm being honest. What else I got coming up? I do have a clothing line. It's called Class A Chicks, and it is on Etsy. It's specifically for women that are in trucking. But if you think you're a Class A chick, wear the clothes.
Yeah.
And then what else I got going on? I'm working on my second book.
Ooh.
It's called Victim and Violator. So I talk about the heavy stuff underneath, how I got to this resolution portion.
That's good.
So yeah. And I will be speaking at, I just started this. Once a month, I'll be speaking at a school in San Bernardino for young girls that are facing issues like we have. And I'll be doing that once a month.
Nice. And what are your socials?
Oh, I don't know them all, but Frances Fomai, Frances. That's how you spell my name.
We'll put it on the
At
screen. We'll make
Frances
sure we put it
Fomai. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and what else? LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, y'all. That is a wrap. Season 1 is done. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We are on our way to 100,000 subscribers, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and again, leave some comments, y'all. I be getting my comments on my Instagram, but leave some comments below who y'all want to see in Season 2, and thank y'all for the support. And that's a wrap.
Yay.